So this idea came to me today, and it was so massive. It was basically such a massive story that I decided to do an entire trilogy today. That was the thing. Like I was, I literally had this idea pop out of my skull while I was out today, and it just came to me. Well, it was inspired by DC versus vampires, but it was so big, I was like, there's no way I can do one video on it, so I decided to do a trilogy on the video. So, here we are. Yes, this is inspired by the DC versus vampire comics, Disney versus vampires, the Disney versus vampires trilogy. So, we're gonna get right into it. I'm very excited to talk about it because there's something that was just kind of on my mind when I was when I was out today, getting a haircut, out at doing other things today, and I was just like, yeah, I want to do this, but I was like, it'd be so long as one video, so I decided I will break it up into a fucking trilogy. I thought that'd be a much better idea, so here we go. So the first half is kind of all the setup. It's all basically like what is going on. So the story is that Kim is sent on a mission by Global Justice Network. It starts out with Kim Possible and Ron Stoppable being sent on a mission by the Global Justice Network. And essentially what is going on is that they have lost several agents. And it's not just regular agents. It's from a group. It's from a sector called that deals with something that Kim is kind of scoffs at right out the gate. And it's a division that several agents that belong to a division that dealt with the occult, that dealt with supernatural stuff. And Kim's like, okay, sure. And Dr. Director's like, you don't believe in the supernatural? You've time traveled. You've encountered monsters. And she's like, I never encountered magic. And they're like, what about the monkey statue that time traveled? Ron's like, and what about the monkey statue that time traveled and all the mystic stuff? And she's like, that can all be explained by science. So Kim's not really a believer in the whole magic into magic or, monsters or whatever. And Dr. Director's like, be thankful, you think that, because we've seen things and have files on things that would make you go insane. So, yeah. But that still stands that we have lost we have several agents missing. Please go find these lost agents. Please go find these lost agents. We don't know where they are. We are in fear that they may be, dead. And essentially, she gives more information. They were following a group called the Crimson Court. They were following an organization that we have been tracking for a bit called the Crimson Court. The Crimson Court is basically said to be a secret organization that has been around since for decades. It has been around for not even decades, centuries. It has been around for centuries. It is said to be a secret society that has been manipulating certain events in history and has more or less been in the background of humanity, kind of like a predator stalking its prey. So the Crimson Court has been investigated by this department in Global Justice Network, and it's been like a shadow war. But their agents have been slain, and the last place they were sent was Budapest. So Kim and Ron go to Budapest, and they actually discover they follow the trail, and they're like, Kim and Ron's like, do you really think this is a real thing, KP? Crimson Court, we're going to Budapest in Romania. Do you think it's vampires? And she's like, Ron, come on. Vampires, really? Are you serious? And he's like, anything, KP, there is some stuff that we have seen and other stuff out there that we can't explain. Maybe it really is vampires. Maybe it could actually be vampires. And Kim's like, I doubt it's vampires. Do I think it might be a secret organization? Yeah, I've encountered enough of those. Do I think it's a secret organization of vampires? No. Yeah. So they go to the last known location, and they actually find like the last known location, which is a old castle, and they discover that there was a fight. Like, to quote Boondock Saints, there was a firefight. The agents and whoever they battled had it out, and they actually find one of the agents, and they actually recover him, and it turns out, yeah, he's telling them, like, you know, someone tipped off the court. Like, yeah, the Crimson Court was here. We engaged them, but we like, someone set us up. We tried to call for backup, tried to call for an evac, nothing happened. And that's when he tells them, like, Global Justice Network is infiltrated by the Crimson Court. And they're like, how do you know all this? And he's like, because the Crimson Court told me to tell you, you're not going to, you can't stop us. And that's revealed. He's a vampire. He comes at him, and Kim and Rom have to fight this guy until Kim stakes him. And she's like, and he was like, how'd you know that? Ron was like, how'd you know that worked? I watch all the movies, Ron. So after staking him, she's like, okay, vampires. I believe what I see, and I just saw a vampire. So let's go back to Dr. Director and tell her the news. And he's like, KP, you can't do that. He's remember what he said? The whole place is infiltrated. Like, GJN is infiltrated by what he said is true, the Crimson Court has infiltrated Global Justice, and who knows who else they got. Like, who knows where else they got in the government, in military. It's dangerous. Like, and they're like, and Kim's like, well, who do we go to? And he's like, I mean, we could give a shot at contacting others people. And Wade's like, Kim's like, she gets Wade on the phone and is like, listen, I need you to Wade, I need you to contact a list of known superhumans and meet me in these locations, and then destroy the information immediately. And he's like, why? Just do it. So, yeah. So Kim and Ron set up a meeting with Jake Long, Randy Cunningham, the ninja. They set up a meeting with Star Butterfly and Marco. They set up a meeting with all of them and are like, before we get started, I want everyone to show your necks. And they're like, what the fuck are you? And she's like, just do it. And they're like, here. And she's like, okay, you're all good. For an extra measure, like, she's doing all these tests, like, you know, handing them garlic and things like that. And then she's like, okay, what I'm about to tell you is going to be really fucked, but know this, that we are at, as of right now, we're at war with something that none of us are prepared for. There's a secret organization of vampires, and everyone's like, some of them are like, whatever, but the other half is like, oh fuck, 'cause especially Jake, who's like, oh god. And he's like, it's the Crimson Court, isn't it? And he's like, what? How do you know about the Crimson Court? And he's like, my grandfather always, like, talked about the Crimson Court as, like, this boogeyman, this all over, like, but my species, the dragons, fought Strigoi, who were a subspecies of them, and it was always believed that they were members of the Crimson Court. And the Court has always been, like, staying out of the dragon's lane, and we've been staying out of theirs. We don't know if they exist. And Randy's like, what in the Court of Owls shit are you guys talking about? And that's when they're like, look, there's a secret society of vampires. We're gonna go to the Global Justice Network. They're infiltrated. Like, they got infiltrated. We don't know who to trust. We went to you guys. If you know some other people who can help us, that'd be really cool. And Jake's like, I got some friends in New York. I can contact. I can get them here. And Star and Marco are like, yeah, we know some people too. We can grab them too. And yeah. So they get together more people. They all do the tests, and they get together. They get the gargoyles. They get Witch. They get the owl. The members of the Owl House. They get the group from Gravity Falls, as well as the Calamity Trio, and Marcia and Marcy and Sasha. So, and Marcy and Sasha, all of them. This is post the end of the show for them. So this is right after this is right after them leaving Amphibia. And as for Owl House, this is right at this is also the show's end, so they can go in between worlds. And also for the Gravity Falls group, this is their second time coming back to Summer. If you're wondering if this is post the end of Star Versus, yeah, but like in here, in this content, in this story, Star didn't like merge all of Muni with the Earth. It's just basically like the West Coast is now Munified, and not a lot of people like her. And people are still dealing with that. So they bring them together, and Kim's like, as of right now, we are all at war with with an unknown enemy. So we need to we need to find a way to find and root out this Crimson Court and find out why they are mobile now. Like, what is their motive? And they are they're like, okay, we will all fan out. We will go and find what they're after. So they all split up. Like all these teams are formed, and they're all going out into the world to find out like any information they can about the Crimson Court. And as they're digging up information, they're finding out there are vampires everywhere. Like, they're just vampires left and right, all of them trying to stop them. And they're like, we can't go. And even like it starts to get to the point where the news outlets are like now issuing warrants for their arrest for believed murders of civilians. So yeah, like I said, the vampires control the media. They control forms of government, big business. It's like just like They Live and DC versus vampires. So eventually, Goliath and the Gargoyles do discover some digging around that the Crimson Court is not the real name of the. It's actually the Crimson Court is actually like, even the name is a conspiracy to throw off conspiracy theorists. The real it's a different name. It's a much different name. And he's after doing some deep research, he's like, this could change everything, Eliza. And that's when she's like, really? And then shoots him. Like, she puts like a bullet through him, and that's when, like, yeah, she's been turned into a vampire recently, not like she's always been a vampire. And Goliath is wounded. The other gargoyles like, get out of there. And you're wondering if the gargoyles turn into vampires. Like Goliath says, like, no, vampirism doesn't affect gargoyles. Our blood is distasteful to them. So yeah, but now NYPD is looking for them as well as Jake and the others. In fact, Jake's family gets attacked by NYPD vampires, and that's when and I apologize for this, but the yin-yang symbol, I know it has a name, Grandpa uses it to ward off the vampires, and Fu is like, I thought that you could only use a cross on them. And that's when his grandfather explains, it doesn't matter what the item is, as long as you have faith that it will protect you, it works. Like, it doesn't have to be just a cross, or it can be anything as long as you have the faith to believe it will protect you from the vampires. So they get the family out of there, but yeah, Haley gets turned into a. Haley is also like protected. She gets bit, but the vampire's like, ugh. Is like yeah. So dragon, like, these aren't Strigoi like that from the show, but yeah. So vampires are closing in, and Goliath gets taken to the secret base, and Goliath reveals that what the real name of the Crimson Court is. It's the Order of the Dragon. And yeah, they've been basically serving the will of Dracula since his death in 1897, and everyone's like, wait, Dracula is real? He's like, and Goliath is like, yeah, did you think that book was fake? Next you're gonna say like next you'll say like Frankenstein is not real, and he's like, Frankenstein's fucking real? Yeah. And they're like, well, what do we do now? Like, but Dracula's dead. Is that their big plan, is to resurrect Dracula? And Randy goes, oh, if you only thought that was it. And everyone is like, oh, Randy, what are you doing? And he's like, and he was wearing makeup. He's been a vampire the whole time. He got turned into a vampire. He's been a sleeper agent for the Crimson Court, and he's been relaying all this information to everyone, and he's like, yeah. So he just goes at them, attacking all of them, and actually, just straight up, starts slicing through people. They're trying to get out of the way. Star's spells are actually disrupted by the magic in Randy's sword. And they're like, so who, and that's when the head of the Crimson Court arrives. And it's not Dracula, because he is dead. They have his body. And it's revealed that it's Mina Harker. It turns out that ages ago, Mina was still infected by Dracula's blood, and the real purpose Dracula turned Mina into a vampire was to be like a failsafe. So she's the one who the Order of the Dragon, aka the Crimson Court, found her and reawakened that vampire side in her, and she's been the head of the court ever since. And they've always had Dracula's body. And the first thing they did was take out, more or less set up for Dracula's big return, and they're like, but the problem was we couldn't resurrect Dracula until now, and they're like, why? We needed the blood of God, isn't that right, Boon Choi? So yeah, Anne, who is destined to become God in the future, she's been touched by God, so when Van Helsing killed Dracula, he used a special spell to keep Dracula from being resurrected through only the blood of God. So now that God's here, Randy comes up behind Anne and just gets her through the chest and just starts draining the blood out of her for Mina to use, and they use it to bring back Dracula. So that's where the first part ends. I hope you all enjoyed this. Next up, we're gonna get into Dracula's big scheme. So I hope you all enjoyed this. You guys let me know what you guys think of it so far. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.